What's up guys, Asian here again with another PTS video, and today we're going to be taking a look at enchants, or I should say traits, for stamina DPS going into Murkmire starting next week. Now this is assuming, of course, that nothing else is going to change between this week and when Murkmire goes live, and that all the changes that we see in 4.2.4 are pretty much all the balance changes that they're going to initially make in the Murkmire patch. So there are a couple assumptions here, but we'll work with them unless they pull another horns of the reach on us. I don't anticipate any more balance changes going into Murkmire next Monday. Now, why are we talking about traits for weapons? Shouldn't it be pretty much stay exactly the same across both across Wolf Hunter and Murkmire? And the answer to that is obviously going to be no. They did make a couple of changes to how enchants work that kind of shifted our enchants around a little bit. So the first thing that they did was they made weapon skills proc buffing enchant. So the Berserker enchant, the weapon damage enchant, normally would not proc off of things like blockade or endless hail. They changed that now in Murkmire, where hail and blockade will now proc your weapon damage enchant on your back bar. So that basically means that our new enchant on our back bar is going to be the weapon damage enchant, and it's going to be infused because it will still remember whether it was infused or not, instead of poison as it is right now on Wolf Hunter. So what that means is now we can shift our poison enchant onto our front bar here. Now there are basically two schools of thoughts that were kind of competing here. The first is, do we want to keep Nirnhoned on our main hand here for the additional weapon damage bonus? That was one school of thought. The other school of thought is, well, we can run absorb stamina and poison enchants now on our dual wield bar, and now rending slashes will actually proc both enchants now. So maybe we want infused, so that way we have stronger enchants. We have more sustain from absorb stamina enchant, or a stronger poison damage glyph proc. So those are the two competing schools of thoughts that kind of crossed our minds when we first saw these changes in Murkmire PTS. I think this was back in 4.2.2 and 4.2.3 where the rending slashes and the weapon skills proccing enchants changes happened. So naturally I went out and tested this. So Nirnhoned, as you guys might already know, on our front bar is only going to be on our main hand here. And then the other option would be to transmute this into an infused dagger instead. So we had Nirn on our main hand, infused on our offhand, and then infused on our main hand and offhand. Now, one of the things that is a little bit tricky here is the fact that we want to kind of make sure, we kind of want to see which of these two enchants is going to give us the better DPS on our Nirnhoned hand here, on our main hand here, because the infused on our offhand obviously gives us a stronger enchant here. So I basically did two Nirn main hand tests. The first one is what you see here, which is the absorb stamina enchant, and then I did swap these enchants around. So I had poison on our main hand and then the absorb stamina on our offhand. I did all these tests on this stamina warden here that I have. So the build is basically just Reliquin, Veladrets, and Advancing Okada. Did the exact same rotation every single time. So pretty much the only things that we were changing were either the enchants or the traits on our bars here. So here are our results. So basically it was pretty much what I anticipated seeing, and tests that I've talked with a couple of people on Toxic Rating Environment, Seb and Lyco. They pretty much came to the same conclusion I did, which is that oops, I'm on the wrong sheet here. Which is that infused on both hands is going to win out over Nirn on your main hand here. So if we take a look here at the different at the absolute differences, we can see that we pulled about 48.9k on average with a double infused, and 47.9k with poison enchant with the Nirn main hand. Then we did 48k with an absorb stamina enchant with our Nirn main hand that way. So that ends up being about a 2% difference between somewhere between 2% and 1.75% for a Nirn main hand versus an infused main hand. So it does seem like triple infused is going to be the way to go for stamina DPS. So that's going to be infused on your bow with a Berserker enchant, an infused main hand with poison or absorb stam, and infused offhand with whichever poison or absorb stam, whichever one you did not use on your main hand. Now, I did not obviously change my enchants for the infused tests because they're both infused, so it doesn't really matter which hand the enchants go on. I only did this for Nirn, and you can see here that the difference between the poison and absorbed stamina on the main hand is pretty small overall. It's about a quarter of a percentage point, so I would really chalk this up to pretty much chance. I will say though that if you are going with an absorbed stamina on your main hand, the Nirn main hand, you will have to heavy attack more often in order to sustain. I found that I was basically able to sustain a full 6 million dummy parse with the infused absorb stam on my offhand with only one heavy attack, but when I shifted that absorb stam to my Nirn main hand, I ended up having to do at least half a dozen heavy attacks in order to sustain on the 6 million dummy. So that's kind of the downside of running an absorb stam on your Nirn main hand. So yes, for those of you guys who do want to push out that last little bit of DPS on your stamina tunes, you will have to transmute your main hand and potentially even your offhand into infused if you want to get that last 1 to 2% DPS out of your character. That being said, obviously you guys can tell from these parses here that Nirn main hand is still a very strong option, but infused offhand is going to be pretty key. You still want to have at least one infused on your dual wield bar, and obviously because Nirn has much greater effect when it's on your main hand compared to your offhand, you want Nirn to be on your main hand and your infused on your offhand. So that's pretty much going to be what the meta is for traits, for weapon traits when it comes to stamina DPS in Murkmire, again assuming that nothing changes between 4.2.4 and when the patch goes live on Monday. So that's pretty much it for this video. I apologize to all the stamina DPS people who main stam DPS. Yes, you will have to transmute if you want to eke out that last little bit of DPS, but ultimately it's not really going to matter too much. You can keep your Nirn main hand if you don't have the transmute stones, plus a Nirn main hand will still give you a little bit better cleave with endless hail, caltrops, things like that, because an infused enchant will only proc on one enemy compared to Nirn, which gives you basically additional weapon damage, which helps out all of your abilities equally. So that's something you also want to keep in consideration here. If you really want to, min-max this kind of stuff, I would probably say keep a Nirn main hand for those trash pulls where you need the additional cleave damage, and then have an infused main hand to swap to for those instances where you need higher single target damage. So that's it for this video. Hope you guys found this informative, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.